Women in World War II played a huge role on and off the battlefields. Prior to the war, women were looked at as simply as just housewives. But with the coming of World War II, all those civil rights and differences between whites, African Americans, and women were set aside. With the men being away at war, the females of America stepped up and helped to serve their country. Since men had to serve in the army, many jobs were left open in factories. Many women stepped up and filled the roles of their husbands or other male family members in the factory. Rosie the Riveter was a symbol for all women, and she represented the fact that women can do the jobs that males do. Women also contributed to the war effort on the battlefield as well. There were many all-women units such as the Women's Army Corps, the Women's Air Force Service Pilots, the United States Marine Corps Women Reserves, and many other units. Two women who played a huge role in the war are Frances Slanger and Hazel Ying Lee. Slanger was born in Poland and moved to the U.S. when she was 7. She was raised in Boston, Massachusetts, and graduated from Boston City Hospital's School of Nursing in 1937. When she was 29, she heard news of the Nazis killing Jews back in Poland. So on August of 1943, she enlisted in the Army Nurse Corps. On October 21st, 1994, Slinger decided she would write a letter to the Stars and Stripes, a newspaper that was ready for the article that honored the soldiers fighting in the war. Later that day, she died in action when an enemy shell exploded near her tent. Hazel Ying Lee, on the other hand, was born in Oregon, and after graduating high school, she joined the Portland Chinese Flying Club. But Lee and her family moved back to China during the Depression. In 1932, Japan invaded Manchuria, and Hazel immediately volunteered to fly for the Chinese Air Force. Although she was told that women were erratic in combat and was denied permission to serve. When Lee was 30, she heard about the Women's Air Force Service Pilots, or the WASP, and immediately applied. As a pilot for the WASP, she flew fighter aircrafts from factories to shipping centers. But in November of 1944, she collided with another pilot in the air, and she died from her injuries the next day. The following video you are about to see is a clip about the Women's Air Force Service Project and how they won the Congressional Gold Medal. World War II, the Women's Air Force Service Pilots, or WASPs.
They weren't sure back then whether or not women could handle the military life and the military aircraft. So we were started as an experiment.
At a symposium at the Fantasy of Flight Museum near Polk City, Bernice Haydu said the idea of female military pilots was so new they were labeled as civil servants.
We had to sign a paper that if the experiment of women flying military aircraft was successful, that we would then become a part of the Army Air Forces. So when it didn't happen, we were very upset.
These pioneers didn't see the war as a chance to fight for women's rights. They saw it as a calling to join the fight for their country, to do what they loved, to fly the fastest planes in the world, preparing those planes for combat.
An airplane knows no sex, has no idea whether a male or a female is flying.
With the help of Channel 9, Barry Smith joined a group of vets on a flight to Washington to see the World War II memorial. She lives in Avon Park, about an hour south of Orlando.
Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by air.
Right after Pearl Harbor, she was earning $25 a week at the phone company when a letter from her brother, who was in the Air Force, changed her life.
He said, you better learn to fly. They're taking women into the Air Force for the first time, but you've got to have 35 hours of flying time.
To land a job in the WASPs, she had to learn to fly on her own.
We paid our own way for every single thing.
These women were not allowed to see combat, but they did every other aviation job the Air Force could throw at them. Some trained male pilots. Others tested experimental aircraft and helped prepare planes for combat. And others ferried planes and troops wherever needed. The tomb of the unknown soldier reminded Barry of the 38 WASPs who died on duty.
And the parents were notified if the girl was killed, and they would have to send the money to send the body back. And if they didn't have the money, if they were poor, then we would chip in to send the body back.
Deeds like that were not easy on their salary of only $3,000 a year, not nearly as much as male pilots who received full benefits too. 34 years after the war, the WASPs finally received full status as military veterans. And just recently, Barry and Bernice discovered they're getting further recognition.
Your story is such an inspiration to me.
Central Florida Representative Suzanne Cosmos and other women of Congress fought for the WASPs to receive the Congressional Gold Medal. Only about 300 of them are still alive.
The Congressional Gold Medal is not given very often, so it's a high honor.
Barry and Bernice appreciate the honor, but their greatest pride comes in knowing what they did for their country.
That was the most exciting part of my life.
One may think to themselves, why would a minority group like the women help participate in World War II? Well, the answer can be many reasons. For someone like Frances Slanger, it might be because she is a Jew and she heard the terrible news of the Nazis slaughtering them back in her homeland of Poland. For other people, it may be to support their husbands, support their loved ones, or support their country. Either way, no matter what the reason was, we could have not won the war if it wasn't for the help of the women.